What happened in Georgia was not illegal. This is why they are using the RICO Act, because everything on an individual basis was not illegal. But when you group it all together and make an embellishing story out of it, on paper, it seems illegal. And that's the only way they could go after Trump and everybody else, to charge them with something. Al Gore and Alan Dershowitz did the same thing in Florida back in 2000. Alan Dershowitz, Al Gore, his legal team, and I tried to find uncounted presidential votes, lobbied officials, and fought in the courts in 2000. The only difference now, the candidate's name is Donald Trump. That's why this prosecution is an outrage. I was one of the lawyers involved in objections to Florida's presidential vote in 2000. A margin of less than 600 ballots determined that Governor George W. Bush, rather than Vice President Al Gore, won the state and thus the Electoral College vote. I was convinced then, and I am convinced now, that this result was wrong. No one was indicted, disbarred, disciplined, or even much criticized for those efforts, yet here we stand today. President Donald Trump and 18 other defendants has been charged with election fraud, conspiracy, racketeering, and more under a law designed to take down criminal organizations known as the RICO Act. Should Al Gore have been charged in 2000? What about me? I represented the voters of Palm Beach County, many of whom voted by mistake for Pat Buchanan rather than Gore because of the infamous butterfly ballots and hanging chads that prevented their votes from being accurately counted. During the course of our challenges, many tactics similar to those employed in 2020 were attempted. Lawyers wrote legal memoranda outlining possible course of conduct, including proposing a slate of alternate electors who would deliver our preferred election results to Congress. Now Trump and his attorney, Rudy Giuliani, along with others, are accused of conspiracy to commit forgery and false statements for drafting their list of alternate electors. In 2000, Florida state officials were lobbied to secure recounts in selected counties in which we thought the tally would favor us. We were trying to find at least 600 votes that would change the result. This new indictment features Trump's phone call with Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger, which was captured in audio recording. In the conversation, Trump asked Raffensperger to find 12,000 votes. In my mind, this call is among the most exculpatory pieces of evidence. Trump was entitled as a candidate to ask a Georgia state official to locate votes that he believes were not counted. In 2000, attempts were made to influence various Florida officials to recount the votes. Now, the former president's request that Georgia's Republican Speaker of the House reconsider the count is being charged as soliciting a public official to violate his oath. But if similar behavior was legal in 2000, how could it be illegal in 2023? In the end, all those efforts in Florida failed when the Supreme Court in 5-4 vote ordered the recount stopped, thereby turning the election over to President George W. Bush. I wrote a book entitled Supreme Injustice, condemning the Supreme Court's decision and insisting that the election had been stolen from Gore and improperly handed to the candidate who received fewer votes. The book was a bestseller, featured in front-page reviews in the New York Times and other major publications. Most Americans thought that those challenging the Florida vote had acted in good faith, even though the courts ruled against them. What's different today is that many observers do not believe that Trump and his advisors were sincere when they declared that they had won the election, but that doesn't make what they did a crime. The Georgia indictment hinges on the allegation that Trump was lying in order to corruptly prevent the inauguration of the candidate who won the election fair and square. Conspiracy and RICO violations are specific intent crimes. In order to secure a conviction, prosecutors must prove a personalized agreement to join a criminal activity. That will be an incredibly difficult case to make, especially regarding Trump himself, who, to my knowledge, has never wavered from his belief that the election was stolen. He is wrong, but again, that is not enough to prove him guilty. The First Amendment and general crime law principles protect the right to be wrong, especially if the right is based on an honest mistake or belief. Many point to the claim that Trump's associates allegedly stole voting machine data, but that accusation is hotly contested. The jury will have to assess the credibility of each side. The fundamental truth of this indictment is that if evidence of specific crimes were compelling, there would be no need to charge under the onerous intent requirements of RICO and conspiracy laws. The proof is not compelling because these electoral challenges have precedent. Once again, as with the preceding three Trump indictments, the law is being stretched to its limits in order to snare a former president. Show me the man, and I'll show you the crime, is the infamous Soviet-era boast attributed to Joseph Stalin's chief of secret police. Is this really what our country has become? When prosecutions are rooted in fickle ground of politics and not solid rock of justice, everything will crumble. It's been done before. That's the big thing here. And like he said, the only way you can charge these crimes is to use the RICO Act. You can't charge them individually because they're not breaking any crimes. No. This indictment is election interference. No, they know their interpretation of RICO Act will not hold up, even if the jury convicts Trump, because the Supreme Court will step in and say no.